Academic Advisor for Instructional Television at Pasadena City College, I'm pleased to have the opportunity to present a series entitled Foods for the Modern Family. The principal objective of this series of 45 half-hour programs is to bring you ideas, techniques, and recipes for the preparation of attractive, nutritious meals and helpful suggestions for menu planning. By bringing before you a variety of guests who are expert in the selection, handling, and preparation of food, and by many demonstrations of food preparation techniques, we feel that the information you will gain and the pleasure you will receive will make your watching these programs an enjoyable, worthwhile experience. The teacher hostess for the series is Libby Lafferty. Libby is herself a homemaker who understands the problems and pleasures of family meal planning. She is a graduate home economist with a community college teaching credential and a broad-based background as senior home economist for the Southern California Gas Company and food consultant for various businesses. She has also had catering experience for several years in the Southern California area. All of this experience in the handling of food makes Libby exceptionally well qualified as your teacher, and I'm confident that you will find her charming as your hostess. And now I am proud to introduce Foods for the Modern Family.
Welcome to Program 1, introducing the television series, Foods for the Modern Family. No matter whether you begin this course as a competent cook with 30 years experience looking for new and creative ideas, or as a beginner in the kitchen who will greatly benefit from the basic techniques, you'll find lots of information and ideas worth watching. If it's as much fun for you to watch as it was for us to do, you're in for a lot of enjoyment. To fully enjoy this series, there are two things you should have handy. One is the textbook, Understanding Food, and the second is the workbook entitled Foods for the Modern Family. I'll be telling you more about these later on in the program. Right now, I'd like to show you the two areas where I work. This is what we call the dining area. It is used primarily at the opening for displays and explanations. Frequently, at the close of the program, we bring the food we have prepared into this area and place it in the context of a total menu plan. Here's where you will see the food displayed in an attractive manner, which is so important to the overall enjoyment of a meal. The greatest portion of our time on these programs will be devoted to food preparation, which, of course, is done in the kitchen. Although this kitchen is a set for the television series, it represents the basic makeup of the average home kitchen. The standard equipment that you have in your own kitchen will be adequate for the food that will be prepared in this kitchen. The best way to give you an idea of what the series consists of is to show you excerpts from each of the 12 units you'll be studying. To make you aware of marketing practices in the food industry and to help you become a better consumer, Lesson 2 deals with marketing. The 4 basic food groups play an important role in your diet, and it all begins at the market. In this plan, the foods eaten each day are divided into 4 categories. Milk and dairy products is the first group. Milk is our main source of calcium in foods and also contributes fine quality protein, vitamins, especially riboflavin and vitamin A, and many other nutrients. Milk and milk products combine with other foods for a wide variety of menu uses. Group 2 is made up of meat and other protein foods. This group contains all kinds of meat, fish, poultry, eggs and cheese, and such vegetables as peas, beans, and nuts that provide high-quality protein. When planning your weekly menus, keep in mind that a protein source should be included at each meal, not just at dinner. Fruits and vegetables make up group number 3. They provide variety in menu planning, as well as being good sources of vitamins, minerals, and roughage. Plan to include a fruit or vegetable each day that is a good source of vitamin C. The last group is breads and cereals. Foods in this group provide valuable amounts of protein, iron, several B vitamins, and food energy. Breads and cereals should be enriched or whole grain to produce good nutritional value. Use the 4 food groups to plan well-balanced, interesting meals, and buy good nutrition with your food dollar. The unit on foods from plants emphasizes how to select quality, preserve freshness in storage and cooking, and serve fruits and vegetables in interesting ways. To help you become aware of one method of cooking produce, Lesson 4 shows you the use of the Oriental wok. We'll add the vegetables, and it should be hot and it should simmer, and you should add just about a handful at a time so that you don't reduce the cooking temperature right away, because it's this very hot, intense heat. It's important. And then you toss the vegetable around, and you'll notice how the design of the wok allows all the vegetable to lay out along the middle and the sides of the pan. You'll also notice how it actually has become brighter green in color as we're cooking. You don't want to overcook it, but this is going to give these 2 vegetables a little head start over the bean sprouts. The high heat is going to seal in the juices and give good flavor. You do not want the vegetable to scorch. If that were to happen, then you would know you need to turn the heat down. Okay, we'll let that cook for just a second and add the bean sprouts themselves. The bean sprouts have quite a high water content, and so when you're cooking with this kind of a vegetable, you need to add less liquid. And so it's more the technique that we're watching today rather than following exact proportions, because you can use any vegetable you like following the technique, but you'll have to use a little common sense as to when to put it in. And Unit 3 deals with how to preserve fruits, vegetables, and other foods with special emphasis on equipment, safety, and use of preserved foods. A segment from Lesson 9 will show you how we try to make you aware of the methods used to dry foods at home and the very uses of dried foods in recipes. Great.
Well, I have some jerky in the oven for us to look at.
Oh, good. Let's go see that.
Let's go over here and see what this looks like.
Looks like yesterday's laundry.
That's just about right. It looks like yesterday's laundry because this is the way we hang the jerky or drape the jerky. Now, of course, this would have to marinate for an hour, but then after the marinating period is over, you will take these wet strips and just arrange them on the racks with a piece of foil under to catch the drip that might occur. And you put it in the oven, turn it to 140 degrees, and forget it until it is the degree of brittleness or dryness that you like.
So could you do this after dinner and then put it in and then the next morning? The 4th unit is a survey of the food group of milk and milk products. Emphasis is placed on the appropriate use of milk in food preparation and its nutritional value. One of the lessons is on children's nutrition and stresses the importance of good nutrition during the growing years. Okay, what's this got in it?
Okay, first it's got...
Why don't you stand up?
Okay. First it's got some orange wedges, and it's just peeled, and you cut it in small pieces, so...
Why do you use a whole orange instead of orange juice?
Well, it gives it more texture, and it just tastes better.
And maybe
It's not
doesn't
as
make
runny.
it as thin, right?
And then you use an egg, and oh yeah.
Why do you put it in the cup first?
Because, well, I would make a lot of mistakes, and sometimes you get the shell in there. If you get the shell in there, it's kind of hard to reach in and pick it out. It's easier to do it in here.
Yes, and he told me the other day he doesn't like crunchy shakes. Right. There you go.
Okay, then you use a half cup of milk. And, of course, some ice cream.
These hot lights really make the ice cream
It's
soft.
better if it's cold and hard. You're gonna get a thicker shake.
The ice cream is going to do what for this shake? How's that for a scoop, everyone? One more. Oh, you think that's going to count as 3? No, one more. Okay.
It makes it thicker and gives it flavor.
And it adds the only sweetening then to the shake. When my son Kevin makes an orange breakfast shake, he makes a big one. The soup unit covers techniques in the making of stock and the use of soup in menu planning. The purpose of the soup lesson is to teach you how to make a good stock and create wholesome soups.
in your soup drawer. I have a soup drawer at home, and what I do is take any ends like this if I'm not going to use them, and I put them in my soup drawer, and then when I'm ready to make soup, I take them out, and I always put them with fresh vegetables along with them. And
Yes.
I chop the vegetables instead of mincing them or cutting
Getting
them
them
in
in good
a smaller.
large pieces they're going to cook down anyway.
Then the other important thing is crushing your garlic.
And that big flat knife does help a
Your
little,
French
doesn't
knife
it?
is a miracle worker. You can cut out 1,000 other utensils, not 1,000, but a lot of utensils if you know how to use your French knife properly. And then all of the vegetables go in.
Now that's starting to simmer, I can hear.
Right. As it simmers, I'm going to talk about the bouquet garni.
Good.
This is a combination of 3 spices: parsley, bay leaf, and thyme. In France, thyme is, you can buy it whole, and so you put all of this into one package. But here we hardly ever find it whole unless we grow it in our garden. So what we do is tie the parsley and the bay leaf together. I use a little more bay leaves than most recipes call for, and it gives it a better flavor, I think. Then, in a little cloth, when your dish towels wear out, use your dish towels to cut them up. 1 tablespoon of thyme. So everything is rotated, not just your vegetables, but also your
That's right.
your dish towels and anything that happens to be in your kitchen. Actually, I tried.
Unit 6 deals with a variety of red meats, how they are prepared, the making of sauces, and various cooking methods. To illustrate one phase of the unit, let's look at a brief portion of Lesson 18, which deals with appropriate methods used in preparing, cooking, and carving tender cuts of beef.
The whole idea of when you do slice it, you use that long, slow motion, and you won't get any of the nicks and cuts actually here on the beef, if I can get it up here, and it's a nice, smooth cut. So we can work it that way. And again, it's you can serve the bone with it, or else we can take it off and trim it up a little bit different. And by the way, it is kosher, you might say, to hold on to the bone while you're carving. You do not have to have a fork when you take it off of there.
Very good
Put it on a
idea.
plate. You
Good to
can hold
know.
on. But we can also take the meat off the bone by cutting down on the bone, like I'm doing, and removing the bones completely.
Those bones could certainly make an awfully good second meal.
Right.
The next unit takes a close look at the preparation and uses for eggs in combination with other foods. A brief look at Lesson 24 will give you an idea of how the program stresses techniques and utensils involved in successful cooking of egg foams and custards. Good custard should have a soft look, but it should hold its shape. When you cut it, it should feel tender, and it should have a smooth, tender consistency in the center. Let's take a look at another custard that was overbaked. It's very important when baking custards that you have the proper temperature and bake them only for the proper period of time. This one, being baked too long, has some cinnaresis. Cinnaresis is the clear liquid that you see forming on the top and the sides. And notice the little pockets where it has collected. When you open it up, I can feel that it is not as tender, and there are more little pockets inside. Cinnaresis happens when the proteins form together and they cook too long and they squeeze out this liquid. The unit on slow and fast cooking explores several appliances and how they are used to best advantage by the cook. The lesson on fast cooking stresses the use of the microwave oven and the pressure cooker. Let's come over here for just a minute and notice that the pressure regulator on the first pressure cooker is starting to rock back and forth. This is the time that you want to go and turn down the heat so that the rocking motion is at a minimum. It'll take a minute for the heat to adjust, but you don't want it to rock at a very high tempo because you'll lose too much moisture. So keep it low and slow, and this is the time then to set the timer. And we'll set it for 15 minutes, and that will be just the right amount of time for cooking this stew. If you would take your 2 pounds of stew meat and have them in the freezer, you could put them in absolutely frozen in a chunk, but then you'd want to add about, 5 more minutes to make up for the frozen temperature of the meat. I think we'll add just a little more heat there, let it start simmering. It may take a few minutes just to kind of adjust the temperature until it's just right. Today, I would like to serve the beef burgundy on a bed of rice. And this is a 1.5 cups of rice that has been cooked with the proper amount of liquid and 4 tablespoons of butter. I'll pour the beef on top, and this would serve 6 people very nicely. And you can thicken the sauce according to your own preferences, whether you like it real nice and thick or a little thinner. Sometimes it's a nice idea to have a little garnish if you like, but today we'll just leave it like this, and it would be a fragrant, flavorful kind of main dish. Unit 9 covers ingredients, techniques, utensils, and pans most commonly used in baking. The lesson on special occasion baking will help you to become aware of the appropriate place of special occasion baking in the diet, unique preparation techniques, and how to use these foods in entertaining. And the last sheet of dough. Be sure when you go to the delicatessen that you check to see that the dough is fresh, because if it isn't, it may stick together, it may be dry and brittle, and then it makes it difficult to work with. If you have somebody around that knows the technique of making the phyllo dough, it's really delightful to watch how they stretch and stretch it out over a whole table till it gets this thin. I started out with a 1/2 cup of melted butter, and we have just a little bit left over, which is good because you'll need some more for the topping. The last of the mixture of the sugar, the nuts, and the breadcrumbs. The breadcrumbs are going to help to serve as a thickening agent when we add the fruit. This is 2 cups of chopped apples, and they are just distributed over the bottom, about 1/3 to 1/2 of the dough. They've been tossed in 2 tablespoons of sugar and a teaspoon of vanilla, which really gives them a nice flavor. Now allow the towel to help you when you go to rolling it up, and it's going to shrink a little when the apples bake, so try to keep it as tight as possible. There we go. The unit on poultry deals with the preparation and storage of chicken and turkey, as well as a variety of sauces and cooking techniques used in preparing turkey. The holiday turkey lesson demonstrates acceptable procedures for preparing turkey and places it in the context of the holiday meal. We have our holiday turkey, along with mashed potatoes to go along with the gravy, and the walnut stuffing balls that are nicely baked and we made on the air. But to begin our Thanksgiving dinner, we start out with a papaya crab meat appetizer, and this is something I think we pick up from the Hawaiian influence in having so many of the nice fresh produce items available to us now. You could also use avocado with shrimp. That would be very nice. This is a cranberry raspberry jello salad. I make it in those little plastic old-fashioned glasses, and it makes individual molds. I think you'll find it has a good zippy flavor. And in our family, we kind of throw caution to the wind and have not only mashed potatoes and stuffing, but sweet potatoes as well. And these are sweet potato boats, and they have been stuffed with a mixture of the mashed sweet potato or yam with crushed pineapple, little rum extract, butter, brown sugar, and so on, as you'll see in your workbook. Then to go along with that, a nice vegetable. This is nutmeg onions with the little petite peas around the edge. The nutmeg onions are really a traditional New England kind of vegetable, and I think you'll enjoy the flavor of that fresh grated nutmeg. When you have Thanksgiving time, bringing out the bounty. In Unit 11, your attention is called to the importance of proper handling, storage, and cooking of fish. In the 36th lesson of the series, we will take you to a fish market to show you how fish are handled, stored, and filleted.
This is the way all fish are filleted. You take off the head first, and then you make 2 cuts along the center bone These little fish slide a lot, so they're tricky. Don't get too close to me or we'll cut two people here. You make,
So what you're doing is cutting along the backbone and cutting through those small bones that
That's right.
emanate out from the
you
backbone.
make two cuts. You make one cut along this side of the backbone, one cut along that side of the backbone, and then you come out with two fillets, just like I showed you in the fillet of sole. This is the center bone that comes out.
And that would be a butterfly fillet right there.
That's right. Now, if this fish is fresh, it won't leave any dark lines along here. If it's not fresh, this bone will stain the fish, and there'll be a dark line. And then you remove these side bones.
If you have a fisherman in the family, would it be a good idea to have him fillet them shortly after they're cut? Or is it fine to wait until...
No, because
You go to use them.
it doesn't matter. The main thing you want to do when you catch a fish is gut it. You want to clean it right
Yeah.
away. And after it's cleaned, just refrigerate it, and it'll keep just as well whether or not it's filleted or not filleted.
Now you slid that knife right under all those little bones and then
Right.
just cut it off at the edge with
And
the
that gives
skin.
you two fillets. And all fish are that way, fillet of sole or anything. And there's very, very few bones, if any, left in that. The main bones are down the center.
The last unit presents information relating to a variety of dining situations. Such things as barbecuing, cooking for yourself, and low-calorie dining will be explored. The purpose of the lesson on eating sensibly is to present a reasonable, nutritionally sound approach to weight control. Virginia, obesity is one of our nation's #1 health problems. What do you think encourages this kind of a problem in America?
Well, I think we start out with our children, rewarding them with sweets. And this is
That's
too
true.
bad. I can remember visiting people, and gentlemen would pull out packages of Lifesavers, and this was, you know, something very special. And we grew up with this idea that sweet things are real rewards and fun things.
I know one of the problems I have is that when I try to watch my weight, every place I go, there is food. Every social event is attached to a dessert or some kind of food.
Right. It's great that you've emphasized fruits, because if we must have a dessert, the fruit is the ideal for the Weight Watcher.
Do you think Americans go out to dinner a great deal and that may have something to do with the overweight problem?
Yes, I think so often, say in the fast food type of restaurants, they're eating mostly carbohydrates. They're not eating raw foods, the fresh green salad and the fresh fruits. And they get into a habit of this. And if they would take stock and look back what they have consumed over the week, they may find that they haven't really had very many raw fruits and vegetables.
I just happen to think. These segments have been presented to whet your appetite. They have given you an overview of the half-hour television programs which make up a portion of the course, Foods for the Modern Family. To make this overview complete, I want to tell you about the workbook and the textbook for the course. To discuss these elements, I have the pleasure of having one of the authors of the text here with me. She is Professor of Home Economics at California State University at Los Angeles, Dr. Margaret McWilliams. Margaret, welcome.
It's a pleasure to be here, Libby, and to be a part of your program.
Well, it's so nice for you to take a little time out of such a busy schedule to come. And as one of the authors of the text, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and also introduce Dr. Kachevar?
Well, I think I'll start with Dr. Kachevar. First of all, on the cover of the book, the picture is not Dr. Kachevar,
Okay.
in case some people are wondering about that. Dr. Kachevar is a well-known food consultant who has specialized in quantity foods work. He was a professor at Michigan State University for a number of years and then retired to be a consultant, and he now is teaching in many different places as a visiting lecturer.
I see.
I am teaching at Cal State Los Angeles. I've been at California State University Los Angeles for 15 years now.
My goodness.
And I've been chairman of the Department of Home Economics there for 8 years. In addition to my responsibilities as chairman, I also have been teaching food and nutrition. And then when I go home, I have a family at home. I have 2 children who now are just about grown and launched, and I have a husband who is a physicist and a publisher.
Well, that's very interesting. Margaret, I know that most of the students will not have had a chance to read the text yet. Can you tell us a little bit about what they can expect to find?
Well, the book that we put together called Understanding Food is directed toward the title. We hope it is anyway. Many people do a lot of cooking. After all, that's what we have to do in order to survive. But understanding what you're doing makes it a lot more fun and makes it a much more interesting part of living. So Dr. Kachevar and I put together this book trying to make the understanding of food right there for everybody to interpret.
I found it very easy to read and understand. Tell us a little bit about how it's put together.
Well, this book is in a format which is called a programmed text, and the idea behind it is to put a bit of information out in a paragraph and then to help the reader know whether or not the point was really put across. There's a question there, and that sort of keeps you involved instead of allowing you to read along for a while.
That's right. Well, I am so glad to have this textbook because I really became frustrated trying to figure out how he's going to fit so many things into a 28-minute, 30-second program, and so having the textbook back me up is a big help.
I can appreciate what you've been going through. There's so much background information about food, and there is much pleasure to be learned or to be gained from working with food if you have the background. I think in looking at your program, if people have the opportunity to read the background that we have in the book here, and then to work along with your workbook, with you illustrating it, it will all just really spring into life.
That's right. I think the workbook is another good tool because it's going to have all the recipes in it, and along with the hints and the food for thought, I've tried to include a lot of those things that we never quite got into our 28 minutes and 30 seconds.
I know, in looking at the sample that I had earlier, I was much impressed with the way you were able to pull things together. It's one thing to look at a show, it's another to be able to refresh your memory on it.
Thank you, Margaret. I've included some other recipes in the workbook that I hope that the students will go ahead and try to give them some more cooking experience. I know that you're working with beginning foods classes all the time, and don't you think this should help a lot?
I think you've done a tremendous job of getting the information put together so that people will really understand food.
Well, and if they know what you've written in the textbook, that will certainly give them a super basic background. And we really appreciate your time. I know you are on such a busy schedule between writing books and teaching college that it's been our pleasure to have you.
It's been my pleasure to be here.
In the course Foods for the Modern Family, we will be covering a wide array of topics concerning foods, nutrition, and good menu planning. The more conscientious you are about studying the text in the workbook, consistently viewing the programs, and trying the recipes and preparation techniques at home, the more you will enjoy and benefit from this course. I'm looking forward to being your hostess, and I'll see you next time. Bye.